Chosen one, lock your attention on what I am about to say right now. That thought you just had, the one telling you something is off, that something about your life does not add up, do not push it down. That thought is exactly why you are here. The enemy is working overtime today for one reason and one reason only. He knows that what you are about to hear will unravel every lie he has spent months building inside your mind. It all ends today. The confusion, the second-guessing, the spiritual fog that has made you question everything you thought you knew. But here is what you need to understand. Before we go any further, it is not ending because of chance. It is ending because of what you have endured and what you have refused to walk away from, even when you could not see the reason to stay. Think back to that moment this week when you sat with something that did not feel right, a situation, a relationship, a decision that was presented to you as a gift but left your spirit unsettled. You did not confront it, you did not name it, you stayed quiet and you watched. People around you may have called that weakness, they may have called it confusion or fear, but you did not know then what I am about to tell you now, that stillness was discernment, that restraint was protection. The moment you refused to fully embrace what your spirit was warning you against was the moment you walked out of the trap. You did not miss your blessing. You escaped a counterfeit. God did not let everything else compete for your attention today so that you could scroll past this verdict. So settle your spirit, because what I am about to deliver changes the way you see everything that has happened to you. You did not find this message by accident. The algorithm did not bring you here. God did. This is a divine appointment that was placed on the calendar of heaven long before this moment arrived. You are standing at a threshold between the version of you that believed the lie and the version of you that finally knows the truth. Stay until the very last second of this message, because in the next few minutes, I am going to show you the exact architecture of the deception that has been operating in your life. I am going to hand you a spiritual audit that exposes the counterfeit that was disguised as a blessing. And at the end, we are going to seal this revelation with a declaration that cancels the enemy's assignment against your discernment permanently. Do not leave. Your future self is watching this moment and begging you to stay, because if you walk away now, you walk away before the full exposure, and a partial truth is more dangerous than no truth at all. I know what the last 72 hours have felt like. It has not just been confusing, it has been disorienting, like the ground beneath you shifted and you are not sure where to plant your feet. Maybe you found out something this week that contradicted everything you had been told. Maybe someone you trusted said something that sounded right on the surface, but left a heaviness in your chest you could not shake. Or maybe it was quieter than that. Maybe you have just been waking up lately with this unsettled feeling, like something in your life is not what it has been presented to be, but you cannot find the words for it, and you cannot find the proof. You feel like you have been operating inside a version of reality that someone else constructed for you. Like you have been making decisions based on a map that was drawn wrong on purpose. And in that disorientation, the enemy has been whispering a very specific lie. He has been telling you that the fact that you did not see it sooner means something is wrong with you. He is replaying the moments you trusted when you should have questioned. He is pointing to every decision you made inside that deception and telling you that your judgment is broken, that you are naive, that you cannot trust yourself. That even now, listening to this, you might be getting it wrong again. The accuser has been using your own past trust against you to convince you that you are the problem. But I need you to hear what the scripture actually says about this moment. Luke 8:17 says, "For nothing is secret that will not be revealed, nor anything hidden that will not be known and come to light." Listen to that promise. Nothing hidden will stay hidden. Not one layer of the deception that has been operating in your life is beyond the reach of divine exposure. God did not place discernment inside your spirit so that the lie could survive indefinitely. He placed it there so that the moment of revelation would land and you would recognize it when it arrived. This is that moment. You are not in a cycle of being deceived. You are in the conclusion of one. The disorientation you feel right now is not evidence that you cannot trust yourself. It is the sensation of a false reality being dismantled. The confusion is not your failure. It is the sound of the lie losing its structure. You were not foolish for trusting. You were targeted because of what you carry. The enemy does not construct elaborate deceptions for people who pose no threat. He builds them for the ones whose clarity, whose purpose, whose alignment with heaven represents a direct danger to his assignment. You were not deceived because you were weak. You were deceived because you were significant. And the moment you walked into this message, the deception lost its power over you. Most chosen ones who hear a message like this feel the fire for about 48 hours. Then the dryness returns. The doubt creeps back. The silence gets louder. And within a week, they are exactly where they were before, waiting, wondering, spiritually exhausted. That cycle breaks today, or it does not. The inner sanctum puts a prophetic word from the throne room in your hands every single morning, 365 days of hearing God before the world can speak first. The link is in the first pinned comment. It will not be there forever. And neither will this window God just opened for you. You've been lied to about who you are. And the worst part, you believed it not because you were weak, but because the lie came wrapped in something that looked like love, like wisdom, like protection. It came from people you trusted, from systems you were raised inside of, from voices that spoke over you before you even had language to push back. And somewhere along the way, you stopped questioning it. You just absorbed it, made it part of your identity, wore it like it was yours, but it was never yours. And if you're ready to finally strip away everything that was placed on you without your permission, I want you to grab the guide I put together. It's linked in the description below. It breaks down exactly what we're walking through today, so you can return to it, sit with it, and let it keep working on you long after this video ends. Get it now, and then stay here, because what's coming next is the part that changes everything. Here's what most people never get told. The deception wasn't random, it was targeted. Whatever has been assigned to your life, whatever greatness, whatever authority, whatever specific calling heaven placed inside of you before you took your first breath, that thing attracted opposition before you even knew it existed. You didn't stumble into confusion. Confusion was sent to find you. And this is where the story of Gideon becomes important, because Gideon wasn't hiding from the enemy when the angel found him. He was hiding from himself. He was threshing wheat in a winepress, doing something small in a place designed for something else entirely, because he had accepted a version of reality that had no room for what he actually was. He had so deeply internalized the narrative of his own inadequacy that he was performing a subservient task in a place that was meant for the potent, fruitful process of making wine, a symbol of celebration and abundance. He was, in essence, trying to squeeze sustenance from the dry husks of his perceived limitations, rather than crushing the grapes of his true potential. And when the angel called him a mighty warrior, Gideon's first response wasn't gratitude, it was argument. He projected his internal lie onto the external reality, essentially saying, "You must be mistaken. The evidence of my life contradicts your assessment." Because the lie had been living in him so long, it felt like truth. The lie always does. It becomes the very fabric of our perception, a distorted lens through which we view ourselves and the world. And this is the first thing you need to understand. You've been arguing with your own calling, maybe not out loud, maybe not in ways you'd recognize immediately. But every time an opportunity appeared and you said, "That's not for me," Every time someone saw something in you and you immediately deflected, every time you felt the pull toward something bigger and then talked yourself back down to something smaller, that was you in the wine press. That was you threshing wheat in a place built for wine. You were performing survival tasks when your soul was designed for thriving. The smallness wasn't humility. Humility is recognizing your true capacity and acting with grace. This was agreement. It was a subconscious pact with the lie, a concession that the limited version of yourself was the only one permissible. And until you break that agreement, nothing moves forward. It's like trying to grow a magnificent oak tree in a pot designed for a succulent. The tree's potential will always be stunted by its container. But here's where it goes deeper. Breaking agreement isn't just a decision, it's a confrontation. Because that agreement didn't just live in your mind, it lived in your body, your habits, your relationships, your daily patterns. It structured your life. The lie became the architecture of your existence, a blueprint for a house that was never meant to be your permanent dwelling. It dictated the rooms you could enter, the heights you could build, the light that could penetrate. And that's why simply deciding to think differently isn't enough. You can make a declaration in the morning, a valiant effort to shift your internal landscape, and by noon be functioning entirely inside the old agreement. Your muscles remembering the familiar posture of limitation. That's not weakness. That's the nature of deep-rooted deception. It doesn't live on the surface where willpower can reach it, like a weed easily plucked. It lives underneath in the foundations of your being, in what you automatically believe you deserve, in what you unconsciously assume is possible, in what you instinctively do when no one is watching and no motivation is present. It's the automated response of a deeply programmed system. And this leads us to something most people miss entirely. The roots of the lie aren't always painful memories, like a gaping wound that demands attention. Sometimes they're comfortable patterns. Sometimes they're routines that feel like discipline, like a well-ordered life, but are actually avoidance, a sophisticated way of not engaging with the discomfort of growth. Sometimes they're relationships that feel like support, like a warm embrace, but are actually containment, a gilded cage that keeps you safe but prevents flight. And the reason this is so hard to see is because the enemy is not stupid. He does not always come against you with opposition, with roaring lions and fiery darts. Often he comes with comfort, with familiarity, with just enough peace to keep you from pressing forward, like a gentle current that leads you away from the open sea. Think about the children of Israel in the wilderness. There came a moment when the discomfort of the journey, the lack of familiar comforts, made them nostalgic for Egypt. They romanticized their chains, remembering the supposed bounty of their servitude, because at least in Egypt they knew what to expect. The predictability of their suffering was, in a twisted way, a form of security. And many chosen ones are living in that exact tension right now, standing at the edge of their promised land, the scent of their destiny in the air, but unconsciously gravitating back toward the familiar wilderness, because at least the wilderness is known. The known discomfort is often more appealing than the unknown promise. Stay with me, because what's coming next is the insight that breaks the cycle, the one hidden in plain sight that most people walk right past. It's like a key hanging on a hook right next to the locked door. But we're so focused on rattling the handle, we never look around. Now, once you understand that comfort can be captivity, you're ready for this. Your body has been trained to interpret expansion as danger. Every time you've moved toward your breakthrough, toward the vastness of your potential, something in you has registered it as a threat, not because breakthrough is inherently dangerous, but because it's unfamiliar, and your nervous system, designed for survival, has been conditioned to treat unfamiliar as unsafe. It's like a smoke detector that's overly sensitive, going off at the slightest hint of steam, mistaking it for a fire. This is not spiritual failure. This is human wiring in need of divine override. And the override doesn't come through trying harder, through sheer force of will, attempting to rewire the nervous system. It comes through encounter. It comes through moments of such undeniable divine presence, such a profound touching of the sacred, that the familiar suddenly feels smaller than the possible. Paul didn't reason his way out of his old identity on the road to Damascus. He was overwhelmed by a light he could not explain, a voice he could not deny, and a truth that made everything he thought he knew suddenly insufficient. The override was not intellectual. It was a seismic, heart-shattering, soul-awakening times experience. And this matters for you, because you may be trying to think your way into a transformation that was always meant to be encountered. A spiritual awakening that can only be ignited, not engineered. And this brings us to a real turning point. The chosen one doesn't always feel chosen. That is not a glitch in the system, it is the very design. Because if you walked in full awareness of your calling at all times, if the path were always illuminated and your strength always palpable, faith would have no function. Certainty requires no trust. Faith is the muscle that is strengthened in the shadowlands, the muscle that operates when the maps are torn and the compass spins wildly. And the entire architecture of your journey has been built around developing something that can only be developed in the absence of proof. A deep, unshakable knowing that exists not because circumstances confirm it, not because the world applauds it, but because something inside you has been sealed by heaven itself, a divine imprimatur on your soul. This is what Job was carrying in the darkness, when his world crumbled around him and his friends offered platitudes. He couldn't explain what was happening to him. He couldn't reconcile the gap between what he knew about God's goodness and what he was experiencing in real time. And yet, there was something in him that would not let go, not because he had answers, not because he understood the cosmic chessboard, but because beneath all the confusion, beneath the tempest of his suffering, there was a covenant, a sacred promise that confusion could not reach, a divine anchor holding him fast. And just when you think you've grasped that, there's one more layer, and it's the one that changes your entire relationship with time. It's a recalibration of your internal clock, a shift in perspective that redefines the sacredness of the present moment. Because most chosen ones are in conflict with their timeline. You know what you carry. You've seen glimpses of what's possible, like shimmering mirages on the horizon. And the gap between where you are and where you know you're supposed to be creates a friction, a constant hum of dissonance that can quietly turn into bitterness if you're not careful. That bitterness doesn't always look angry, like a storm. Sometimes it looks like chronic disappointment, a low-grade ache that settles into the bones. Sometimes it looks like spiritual exhaustion, the ashes of a fire that once burned brightly. Sometimes it looks like people who used to worship with fire, with passionate abandon, now attending services with nothing but obligation, the ritual devoid of its resonance. The delay is real. The waiting can feel like an eternity. But here's what's also real. The delay is not punishment. The delay is preparation. And I want to be careful here because this truth has been weaponized against chosen ones, twisted into a justification for passivity, a tool to keep them from stepping into their power. I'm not telling you to sit down and do nothing. I'm telling you that while you're moving, while you're pressing, while you're building your capacity and expanding your influence, the timing is being calibrated by a wisdom that sees what you cannot yet see. A divine engineer meticulously assembling the pieces for a future event. Esther didn't know she was being prepared for a moment that hadn't happened yet. She was just being faithful in the place she found herself, tending to her duties, cultivating her character. And when the moment came, the divine decree for her people, everything she had gone through, every act of obedience, every challenge overcome, had produced exactly what the moment required. She was ready, not because she had foreseen the future, but because she had honored the present. But let me challenge you with something that lives beneath even that. Something that gets to the heart of our participation in this divine calibration. You've been treating preparation like waiting, and that distinction is everything. Waiting is passive. It's leaning against the door, hoping it will open. Preparation is active. It's gathering the tools, studying the blueprints, strengthening your legs for the journey ahead. Waiting watches the door. Preparation builds the capacity to walk through it when it opens. And the reason so many chosen ones arrive at breakthrough, stand before the open door of their destiny, and still don't step through, is because they spent their season waiting instead of preparing. They were passively observing the unfolding of time, rather than actively engaging in their own transformation. Which means when the door finally opened, they didn't recognize it, or they didn't trust themselves to be ready for it. Their own capacity underdeveloped, their spirit unequipped for the vista that lay beyond. The question heaven is asking you right now is not, when will it happen? It is, what are you doing with the space between now and then? Because that space, that sacred, frustrating, confusing, refining space, is not empty. It is loaded. It is imbued with potential. It is full of the raw material of who you are becoming, and what you do with it will determine whether you walk through that door fully formed, a masterful creation, or half-finished, a work in progress, still subject to the whims of the elements. Now here's where most people stop listening, because this is where it gets uncomfortable. It challenges the very narratives we've built around our suffering, and I want you to stay with me, because this next part is the part that breaks open what nothing else has been able to break. It's the final lock, the ultimate revelation. There is a hidden pride in the wounded chosen one. I said what I said, and I say it not with judgment, but with recognition, because this is one of the most subtle and most devastating barriers to breakthrough that exists. It's a quiet arrogance born from enduring hardship, a self-perception that has become intertwined with the narrative of victimhood. It sounds like this. After everything I've been through, I deserve this to be easy now. It sounds like, I've suffered enough, God owes me speed. It sounds like, if this were really my calling, it wouldn't be this hard. And beneath every one of those sentences is a belief that your suffering has purchased for you the right to a path without resistance, a spiritual exemption from the necessary trials of growth. But the cross was not the end of difficulty. It was the demonstration that difficulty and destiny are not in opposition. The path of transformation is often paved with the very challenges we seek to avoid. Suffering is not evidence of abandonment. It is sometimes the very crucible that forges the thing only you can carry, the unique anointing that sets you apart. And the pride, the subtle, wounded, exhausted pride says, I've already been through enough to qualify. But heaven's qualification process doesn't respond to how much you've endured, to the sheer volume of your pain. It responds to what the endurance has produced in you. It's about the refinement, the transformation, the character forged in the fire. And here's the part you probably didn't expect. The thing that's been blocking you isn't the enemy, though he certainly works to exploit it. It isn't your past, though it has shaped you. It isn't the people who didn't see you, didn't choose you, didn't fight for you, though their actions may have inflicted wounds. It isn't even the lie you believed, though it has distorted your reality. It's the version of yourself you've been protecting. Because somewhere in the wreckage of everything you've been through, you built a self that was designed to survive. And that self is brilliant. It is a masterpiece of resilience, a testament to your will to live. It got you here, but it was built for survival, not for authority. It was designed to shrink, to hide, to endure. And what heaven is calling you into now requires a version of you that was never built to survive. It was built to reign, It was built to expand, to lead, to manifest. Those are two completely different architectures, two fundamentally different operating systems, and the one you've been living inside, the survival self, is too small for what's coming. Not because you failed to build something, because you built something extraordinary for the season it was designed for. It was the perfect sanctuary during the storm. But this is a new season, and new seasons require new structures. The self you've been protecting, the one honed for weathering the tempest, will not fit through the door that's opening into the sunlit landscape of your destiny. And this is the final shift. The breakthrough you've been asking for requires the release of the self that's been asking for it. Not the end of you, the expansion of you. Not the death of who you are, the resurrection of who you were always meant to be. The caterpillar doesn't die in the cocoon. It undergoes a profound metamorphosis. But what it was, its crawling, earthbound existence, cannot survive the becoming. And if you are willing, not perfectly willing, not fearlessly willing, just willing enough to take a step toward the unknown, if you are willing to loosen your grip on who you've had to be, on the identity forged in the fires of survival, heaven will meet you in that opening, with everything you need to become who you were chosen to be before the foundations of this world were set. Place your hand on your heart right now and speak this over yourself. I release the lie that was never mine to carry. I release the comfort that was keeping me contained. I release the version of me that was built to survive, and I open my hands to receive the version of me that was built to carry authority. I am not behind. I am not forgotten. I am not disqualified. I am in preparation. I am in process. And the delay has not diminished me, it has developed me. I step forward now, not because I have all the answers, but because I trust the one who does. I am the chosen one. Not because life has been easy, but because something in me refused to let the lie be the last word. And starting today, I stop arguing with my calling. I stop hiding in the winepress, and I step into everything that was spoken over me before I had the words to receive it. If this message reached something real inside you, something that you've been carrying without language, without community, without the right words to name it, then I want you to do two things right now. First, grab the guide in the description. It's going to give you a framework to take everything we walked through today and turn it into something you can actually live inside of, not just feel in the moment. It's your personal roadmap to rebuilding the architecture of your existence. And second, leave a comment below. Not a formality, a declaration. Tell me and tell yourself what you are releasing today. Because declarations made in community carry a weight that declarations made in private sometimes can't hold alone. You were never meant to carry this in isolation, and you don't have to anymore. I'll see you in the next one.